Let me show you the 10 meta ads tests that you need to be running if you like being profitable. You're leaving a massive amount of money on the table if you're not running these tests right now. So in my agency, we are managing $1 million budgets, and in this video, I'll show you the exact tests that we always run for our meta ads clients. Before I jump into the concrete tests, I want to address the harsh truth. If you're not improving, then you're falling behind. This is the mindset that you should have when you're running an e-com store and when you're doing digital marketing. You need to continuously improve your performance and continuously get smarter with testing, otherwise you're failing and you're falling behind. That's why when you're doing anything related to marketing, it can be meta ads, it can be CRO, it can be email, SMS marketing, you should aim for zero downtime when testing. This just means that you should always have a test running, and when the test is done, you should already have a new test prepared to come instead and go live. So you should always aim for zero downtime when testing, and that is how you improve. Now you obviously also need to know what you should be testing, and this is exactly what I will go through right now. Now the first thing that you should be testing is the creative angles. You constantly need to test out new creatives, and more importantly, you need to test out creative angles. So you need to find the angle that works best for your brand, and I've just made a short list of stuff that I believe that you should be testing. I think that you should be testing an organic angle. This is where you don't put a lot of graphical stuff on your ads. This is a more organic looking ad, and therefore people will also sometimes don't think it's an ad, and therefore it can be very effective. Now you also want to test a graphical ad. This is just where you put text overlay, and this is very easy to communicate value, and therefore it's also highly effective. You can also test out stuff like a pattern interrupt ad. This is where you're putting like a kind of crazy creative, and people are like, what is this? They stop on the feed, and this is what we call a pattern interrupt. Has a really high hook rate and can get a high ROI as well. Now you can also test out different angles like before and after pictures. This is also very effective for some e-com brands. It all depends on your product, and there's just multiple different angles. If you don't know what creative angles to test, I highly suggest you just to go to my website and download my Meta Ads Masterclass for 2025. In that masterclass, I go through all the creative angles that I think you should test and how to create killer content in 2025. The second thing that you should be testing is your ad formats. So this is image versus video versus carousel versus collection, and this is just really important to figure out what your audience responds the best to. So either it can be static ads, it can be video ads. Typically, we start off with producing mostly static ads, as this is highly effective, but you obviously want to test out video ads and carousel ads, as these can also be highly effective depending on the niche of your e-com store. Now the third thing that I suggest you test out is the landing page of your ads. So typically you want to send your traffic to either your product page, your collection page, or maybe your home page. But you need to test it out, and you need to see where you should send your traffic, as this has just everything to do with your ROI from your meta ads. So this is one of the biggest mistakes that we see, that people are just thinking that, oh, we should always send the traffic to, let's say, the product page. But then they figure out that it's actually more effective sending it to the collection page, and then all the ads are sending the traffic to the wrong place. So this is essential that you test out where to send the traffic, and you then adjust. Now the fourth thing that you need to be testing is your copywriting. After you've hooked people with your creatives, you need to convince them into clicking your ad and actually converting on your website. So the copywriting is your ad text. We like to test out the length of the ad text. So we like to go with a very short version, a medium version, and then a longer version. So the short version would typically just be a call to action straight away. And then you have a medium version where you talk a little bit more about the product. And then you have a long version where you have a really long ad text. Then you see what people respond the best to. And then let's say it's the long version. Then you can test out different long versions where you test out different angles and different value approaches. So test out the ad copy, test out the length, and then afterwards you test out the actually content in your copywriting. Now you can also test out the headers in the copywriting. That's also highly effective. So you just have the same copy. Let's say you find out it's a long sort of copy that wins. Then you just test out the header of the copywriting, and then you see like what is the hook rate. Does people like this header? Is that more intriguing? There's just a lot of stuff to test in the copywriting, and by continuously improving your copywriting, you will see better and better results over time when you're running meta ads. Now the fifth thing that we want to test out is your retargeting audiences. So we still like to go with a manual retargeting in 2025. Therefore we create a manual sales campaign, and then we create multiple different ad sets. In these ad sets, we test out the different retargeting audiences up against each other to find out where we're actually profitable. So we like to test out website visitors up against ad engagements up against Instagram followers. This way we find out where we're profitable, and then we can turn off the ad sets that aren't performing. So let's say that we're highly profitable with our website visitors, we are highly profitable with people who are engaging with our ads, but we are not really profitable on our Instagram followers. Then we just turn off that ad set, and then we just keep going with the retargeting ad sets. This is a great way to find out where you're profitable, and then just turn off wherever you aren't profitable. The sixth thing that we like to test out is video thumbnails. This is sort of a hack, I would say, because a lot of people aren't testing this, but when you're running a video ad, then you also have a video thumbnail. And this is most of the time the reason why your video ad isn't performing, because people aren't interested in the thumbnail. So if you have a bad thumbnail, then people won't watch your ad. And some people will just think, oh, well, this video wasn't performing, but in reality, your hook rate sucked and people weren't just watching the video. So therefore, we like to test out different video thumbnails. You can go ahead, you can manually select the thumbnail of your video in the Meta Ads Manager. Then you can just duplicate it, you can test it up against a different thumbnail, and then you can see whatever works the best. We like to go off the hook rate, as this is the primary winning metric when you're going with a thumbnail. Now, the seventh thing that we like to test out are ad enhancements. So this can be stuff like ad products, site links, enhanced call to actions, etc. They have a bunch of different enhancements, and by default, we don't really like them because we've seen voice performance with it, and most of all, it can hurt sort of your brand reputation because these enhancements can make your ad look kind of weird. So therefore, by default, we don't really like the ad enhancements and we turn them off, but it can be pretty effective testing them, because if you find out that one particular enhancement is actually improving performance, then you can turn this enhancement on for all of your ads. So I would suggest you go ahead and you test out site links. This one we've seen win multiple different times. Enhanced CTA can win as well. Adding your catalog can also win. So there's multiple different enhancements that I would suggest you go ahead and test, but by default, keep them off. So the eighth test we like to test out is the objective goal of your campaigns. 9 out of 10 times we just go with sales and that just performs way better. But sometimes if you're running with an e-com store that's selling very high ticket products, then you won't have a lot of purchase events. And these purchase events are telling Meta what type of people they should targeting your ads to. And if there's not a lot of events, Meta will have a tough time doing the targeting. And therefore you can get in a bit of a weird situation where you're having targeting problems. In these scenarios, we like to test the add to cart objective versus the sales objective. And when you're testing the add to cart objective, that's just because you'll have way more events for the add to cart, and therefore Meta will have an easier time optimizing for add to cart. Now, obviously the quality won't be as high, but sometimes we've seen it work better than the sales event if you're running on low purchase data. So that is a test that we've seen work, and that I also suggest you testing out, especially if you don't have a lot of purchase event data. Now, the ninth thing that we like to test out is the attribution settings. This is something completely overlooked, and agencies aren't doing it, and I haven't really seen an e-com store testing it out as well. So the attribution settings is just what tells Meta when a conversion is really a conversion. By default, Meta is going with 1-day view and 7-day click. This just means that if a person clicked your ad and then 7 days later they converted, they bought something off your store, then that would count as a conversion. Also, if they viewed your ad and then the same day they converted, then that ad would also get the conversion. So this is the default, but we actually like to sometimes test out a different attribution settings. So you can test out with 3-day click or even 2-day click. And this is if the purchase journey is shorter, then it can be beneficial to have different attribution settings, because then the Meta ads will optimize for people who will convert in 1 or 2 days. So if you're selling very low ticket, and if you're selling, maybe you run a clothing brand with average order value, then it can be beneficial to run with a lower attribution window, as the ads would then optimize for people who are more willing to convert instantly, and this can give you a better ROAS, and in the end also a higher total ROI, a global ROI, also called MER. Now, the last test that you need to have run if you're an e-com store and if you're serious about growing is a different marketing channel. So typically we are only looking at stuff in the marketing channel, but it can also be beneficial actually testing out a different marketing channel and seeing where the performance is better. So let's say you're only running Meta ads. Now it can also be beneficial to actually test out TikTok ads or Pinterest ads, Google ads, to see where's the performance the best and where should we really put our money. So this is a really underrated test because people are kind of just like logged in on one marketing channel, but it can be beneficial testing out different marketing channels, see where the performance is best, and then doubling down wherever you see the most traction. If you're looking to scale your e-com store, then I would like to offer you a free performance audit. All you need to do is scroll down, book in a call with me, and then we will audit your digital marketing. So we will audit your paid ads performance, we'll audit your website performance, and we'll also audit your retention marketing. Then we'll show you how you can optimize each different area of your e-com brand, and then you can just decide whether or not you want us to implement it for you or you want to implement it yourself. Now, on the other hand, if you're looking to improve your own skills and if you're looking to master ads yourself, then you can go ahead, you can book in a call from the second link in the description, and here you'll have a one-on-one chat with me where I can potentially learn you how you can run ads efficiently.